What up, world? Welcome to the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the frigid, cold, wintry, Arctic-like conditions of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the show out now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Patreon, Substack, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Thank you guys as always. This episode, this special edition, this will actually be a Patreon exclusive. This episode is going to be on the head coaching updates and carousels and hirings and firings that has just been transpiring over the past few weeks. I wanted to do an episode to basically dedicate it and touch on it. And today, Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, it was pretty much, look, I almost slipped up and said 2024, but anyway, Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. A lot of things going on in the NFL today. A lot of things to unpack. So definitely want to get into it. Definitely want to talk to you guys and converse about it. And before I get into anything else, as you guys know, NFC and AFC Championship game upon us, meaning there is literally after this weekend, one game left in the football season, discounting the Pro Bowl because we all know that's some bullshit. But nonetheless, check out StubHub, guys, for the best tickets to live events, concerts, and shows. I have a description link, a creative ID link that will be in the description of this video that you can get for tickets to the Super Bowl. If you're an Eagles, Chiefs, or Bills, or a Commanders fan, you have a chance to possibly get tickets to get to this game on February 9th. I definitely would suggest that you definitely check out my link. Like I said, big supporter of StubHub, love StubHub. Best place for tickets, live events, and shows, StubHub. But anyway, nonetheless, getting into it. Mike Vrabel joining the Patriots. I think this move to me it made the most sense. It screamed fit. I didn't like how Gerard Mayo was fired. I'll be honest with you. I thought that was quite bullshit. I thought Gerard Mayo pretty much got the shitty end of the stick. It happens. Some people feel it's the black head coach thing. I don't really feel like it was a race thing. I feel like he more or less didn't really have enough time to really implement a system. He kind of stepped in it a little bit with some of his decisions, and that led to his firing. And also with the specter of Mike Vrabel looming out there, that definitely put him in a situation where he had to make a decision. And Robert Kraft definitely made sure he hired Mike Vrabel, which again, I think ultimately, I think a lot of people feel is the right decision. That being said, though, there were a lot of things in New England that didn't work that led to the Gerard Mayo dynamic kind of falling apart. One of them is this thing that Tom Curran, longtime beat writer for the Patriots, longtime Boston beat writer, he pointed out while I was watching an episode of Rich Eisen's show, he pointed out that one of the things that has been an issue for this team is collaborative approach. And it's startling. He broke it down to the T. He basically was saying that, the two times that they didn't go with the collaborative approach, which would have been Belichick and now Mike Vrabel, it looks like, Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, when they went with that approach, the non-collaborative, they had success. It seems like they get into these lulls where they want to have collaborative efforts, everybody wants to have, too many chefs in the damn kitchen. So whenever you have that type of situation going on, there's chaos, there's no continuity, things aren't going to really flow or prosper the way they should. And it just causes the football team to lose, the team to be ass, and the front office to just be in disarray. So that's definitely something where Mike Vrabel having to say so, I think is going to be effective and needed for the Patriots. They need a strong, sound voice to go forward, and I think Vrabel's the guy. Also, the dynamic of Elliott Wolf. If any of you guys are fans of the show, or longtime fans of the show, as always, like Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, find it free on YouTube. If you guys are longtime fans of the show, then you know already that I've done an episode this offseason talking about Elliott Wolf and the Patriots and that whole dynamic and, how basically things will play out. And like I said, I have a video link in the description so you can check that out. But I essentially said that I didn't think Elliott Wolf was really a good GM or really knew what he was doing, strictly because his father was Ron Wolf in the Packers organization. When you have a dad that is very, very savvy and sophisticated and smart as far as running an NFL front office, running a franchise, you got to give guys credit for that. However, when you're the son and you're pretty much supposed to be the heir apparent in the organization, and then you go elsewhere to kind of create your own, turn or get your moment in the sun to be the guy to resurrect the New England Patriots. I just feel like he doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing. He signed off on a lot of those free agents last year. They sucked. They sucked ass. Any Patriots fan, there's several of them that I know, told me they were not impressed with that free agent class that they grabbed. I mean, they were actually more happy with the Zeke Hunter Henry free agent class than they were with the free agent class that they just got this past year, which just tells you how atrocious that, crop of free agents was for the New England Patriots. Not great. So I think Elliott Wolf might honestly have less of a say-so in the organization. It might be on his way out, as things play out. So we'll see. But I think Mike Vrabel and the Patriots getting that was definitely a win. The next one, which was the biggest signing, which actually happened early today, to be quite honest with you. Ben Johnson signing with the Chicago Bears. Actually, yesterday, excuse me. Like I said, getting my days all mixed up here, guys. There's always a lot of news and stuff to unpack every day. But nonetheless, Ben Johnson yesterday signed a lucrative deal with the Chicago Bears to become the new head coach of the Chicago Bears and to lead this reclamation project to resuscitate or revive or revitalize or just rejuvenate the career of Caleb Williams and ultimately rejuvenate this franchise, this moribund Bears franchise who has never been known for passing, never had a great passing quarterback in their history, have always been known for the ground game and defense. Walter Payton never had a great quarterback to play with, which was a fucking travesty, but nonetheless, the Bears. So anyway, that being said, I think Ben Johnson was a great hire. They needed offense. Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron, as I've reported before and stated, they clearly were not the answers. I thought Shane Waldron was given a gift by having the receivers and running backs that he had and then getting Caleb and to have that type of performance with him. And I'm not saying that Caleb is fully absolved. I think Caleb Williams has a lot of things that he needs to work on, a lot of things that weren't perfect or good in any way stretch of the imagination, things that, footwork wise, but these are things that you could possibly polish up or cover up to a degree. Nonetheless, having a guy like Ben Johnson, will help revitalize Jared Goff, who has a record and a resume of, doing this, and creating a nice, innovative offense. Sky's the limit for the Chicago Bears. The question, though, I have is the dynamic with the front office. Now, as a lot of people know, Kevin Warren, who is kind of like the VP of football operations, is kind of like the de facto overseer of all of this. Ryan Poles is the GM, but as we know, the dynamic is now the dynamic. I think this is going to be very interesting as far as... Now, I think this year, whatever Ben Johnson needs, they're going to get it because clearly they made an effort to go out and get him. And you don't go out and get a guy that you don't think can do the job and not get him weapons if you don't think he's adequate. So I think they're definitely going to spend money this offseason. They're a prime candidate to definitely blow through the salary cap to get as much talent in there as possible. And the beautiful thing is they already have talent on the roster, so that's a great thing. However, a lot of flaws on offense, and I think schematically there's some things they definitely need to do different. So great for the Bears. Interested, like I said, caveat that front office situation, how that'll play out. But nonetheless, shout out to Ben Johnson and the Bears for finally, in my personal opinion, making a move, a great offensive coaching move that might actually put you in position to do something good. And I think what is also very, very amazing too is Lou Anarumo, who was another defensive coordinator, a long time, for the past several years, actually, 6 years, defensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals. As I mentioned in a previous video, he was fired a couple weeks ago. He now signed on to be the Colts defensive coordinator. And I thought this was outstanding too, because the Colts defense has been atrocious. The Colts have been in a situation where they have not had a defense that has been worth its salt, for lack of better words, and not really in a situation where they could really be of worth or of ilk. So this is definitely a great signing by getting Lou Anarumo. His record as far as defensive coordinators is actually pretty good. I mean, the past 3 years, out of the 3 years, he had a top 15 defense. There was 1 year, you'll see right here in the description, they were top 10 a couple years, 15th. This past year in the 2024 season, they were ranked 20th. Defense definitely took a step back. But I blame the front office. For a lot of that because you don't let fucking Geno Stone and Jesse Bates and, your defensive tackles walk out the door and you don't really replace them. It's just a shitty move, shitty look all the way. But Lou Anarumo now is going to be in charge of reclamating the Colts defense, like I said, which has just been a dumpster fire. Had potential, had some guys, lost some guys via trade, free agency. Definitely has some work that they're going to need to do to get better, but I think Lou Anarumo's the guy. Like I said, when you're the Colts and Gus Bradley, he was supposed to give you that defense that you were looking for, and it just rang hollow. It didn't really seem like it was working. So, like I said, I love the Lou Anarumo hire. This one, though, is pretty interesting to me. Dallas Cowboys. It looks like betting odds are that Brian Schottenheimer may be the new Dallas Cowboys head coach. Definitely, there's some familiarity with Kellen Moore out there, Eagles' current offensive coordinator. They've stated that Kellen Moore is still a possibility, but it looks like Brian Schottenheimer, to me, who just looks like a shitty version of poor man's Nick Sirianni, but it seems like, he's going to be the guy that's going to get the opportunity possibly to coach the Cowboys. I mean, anyone who knows, his father, Marty, who was a great offensive genius, with the Chiefs, Chargers, like I said, great offensive mind. I love Marty Schottenheimer as a coach. I thought he was one of the best coaches I had ever seen. That being said, his son has been around the league, bounced around the league a lot. He's been a different coordinator in a bunch of different locations. Some I can remember. I know for a fact he was at the Jets for a while, obviously Dallas, there's a couple other places. I think Tennessee. I'm forgetting some places, but, he's been a little bit, like Johnny Cash. He's been everywhere. I know the Cowboys like familiarity. I know that this seems to make sense probably to Jerry Jones, but if this doesn't scream to you that Jerry does not want anybody with a strong presence in there that's going to command attention, then you just are blind and have no pulse and are not really paying attention to what the fuck the Dallas Cowboys are doing as far as a search for a head coach or just their front office decision making or how they go about their business, period. The dragging of the feet, the media circus, the consistent and persistent back and forth about what the game plan is going forward. Just dumb, petty bullshit things that should not be persisted on a franchise of that caliber, of that magnitude, so that's all on Jerry. But it seems like Brian Schottenheimer is a hot name. That name popped up actually within the past 24 to 48 hours. So somebody must know something. We don't know yet, but like I said, that's the name that's definitely popping up right now. As we go a bit further, Aaron Glenn, who is currently the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Aaron Glenn is possibly a strong chance he might be the Jets head coach. He still has an interview with the Saints as well. But what I seem to find, what I thought was beautiful was this has Bill Parcells' fingerprints all over it. Bill Parcells loved Aaron Glenn as a player with the Jets. Bill Parcells, as we know, Big Tuna, one of the best coaches in NFL history. The fact that he has his fingerprints on this, I think that's the reason why the Jets may be leaning towards Aaron Glenn. Not that I think that's necessarily a bad hire, because to be quite honest with you, until he, if he does take the Jets job, let's just hypothetically walk in that universe. Who the fuck is your quarterback? Who is your offensive coordinator? Because they haven't been able to get that right for 3 or 4 years now in New York. If you're a Jets fan, I mean, you know all too well. But, I like Aaron Glenn. I'm going to put that one as a maybe. Just because we don't know consistently yet or where, per se, he may fall. Because like I said, the Saints are definitely an ideal location for him, too. I definitely think the Saints, they're kind of looking for something different. They've had Dennis Allen. Prior to that was Sean Payton, of course. Had an offensive guy for years and just had a defensive guy. I think they're kind of looking for a blend of both, but they just don't really know where to look because there's a couple candidates out there and they don't really want to miss out on anybody. And what is it exactly that I mean? Well, prime example, you have the Saints interviewing, Aaron Glenn. You have them interviewing Mike McCarthy. You also have them interviewing Mike Kafka and Anthony Weaver, who's currently the Dolphins defensive coordinator. Now there was a weather delay today because, for the first time in like 15 years in New Orleans, they got snow. So that pretty much put a halt to the interviews for the day. So there's going to be a weather delay before those guys can get out there. But The Saints, I think the strongest choices, if you want my personal opinion, would be out of McCarthy and Glenn. To me, I'd probably say McCarthy just because they need an offensive presence. They need somebody who could help get some offense generated down there. And it just seems like to me McCarthy makes the most sense. But Aaron Glenn is still a possibility. And I can understand it being that they just had Dennis Allen. But I would kind of think that being that you just had a defensive head coach for a couple of years, might be best to go to offensive coach. We'll see. This next one kind of shocked me. It kind of came out of nowhere, but I definitely wanted to speak on it. Pete Carroll potentially to the Raiders. Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk was all over this. He went over this earlier in the day, and he was saying basically don't discount it. Don't think that it can't possibly happen. I like this for Pete Carroll, my personal opinion, because Pete Carroll has always been a good coach. He obviously had to sit with the Jets, Patriots, Seahawks, most notably, getting to the 2 Super Bowls, Legion of Boom, Russell Wilson, things like that. But I think what is really startling for me is that, the way things ended in Seattle, he kind of was peacefully exited out or whisked off, set off into the sunset. But I do think that he's a guy where he could really help change the culture of the Raiders. Now, it sounds funny because this man's in his early to mid-70s, but Pete Carroll seems to galvanize guys and get guys and his teams to play harder. I mean, fuck, did you guys peep Seattle? I mean, Seattle was a dumpster fire prior to them getting there, and then they off effort alone within their first year or two, I believe they made the playoffs. I think it was 7-9. They had the Beast Mode run where Marshawn goes on a big run and they beat New Orleans in Seattle. You got to keep in mind, that's all during Pete Carroll putting in the building blocks of the culture for the franchise. So, loved how Pete definitely did that. So, for the Raiders, if they're definitely looking to rebuild culture, I think he's possibly the guy. I mean, if you're Pete, you don't have the quarterback, so kind of in a situation like, what the fuck? But the Raiders are just so bad culturally and identity-wise. This, like I said, would be a tremendous signing for them, in my personal opinion. This next one, it's definitely been hilarious. What the fuck are the Jacksonville Jaguars doing? I mean, you got multiple interviews going on where you try to get Ben Johnson. He's kind of like, nah, fuck out of here. And I'll touch on that too in a couple of seconds. But, and why is it that he's like saying fuck out of here? And you'll see shortly right here. Trent Baalke is still there. Trent Baalke has, like I said, played good soldier in a lot of situations that he's been in. Definitely never said or did too much to get fired or put himself in the crossfires and made himself too much of a target. Nonetheless, Dougie P got fired because of this man. I know Doug Peterson's a good head coach. Trent Baalke is just a shitty GM. And because they haven't had really any guidance on this, it's been very hard for the Jaguars to ascertain a head coach because people know the dynamic. You fired Dougie P, Shad Khan, but you didn't fire Trent Baalke, and Trent Baalke is one of the major reasons that this team is inept. Trent Baalke signed off on a lot of these decisions. He's the one that also said, don't bring Calvin Ridley back. I mean, this man seems to dodge a lot of bullets. And I don't know if he has pictures on Shad Khan or if he's got evidence or, if this guy is just low-key a kingmaker. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but if you can't bring in legitimate coaches and GMs, then that just shows ineptitude on Shad Khan's part. Because Trent Baalke's not a good GM. He's not a good GM. I've touched on it in a previous episode. GM's on a hot seat. This man has literally had 1 9-win season within the past 5 or 6 years. So as a GM, that's not great at all. And he just seems to get absolved. He seems to get a fucking pass for it. And I don't understand why, but this is the situation the Jaguars are in, interviewing multiple candidates, no real guidance, and longest Trent Baalke is there, I don't think they'll actually get somebody of significance. So, definitely not a good situation in Jacksonville. As we head on down, definitely want to mention some late news that actually just broke this evening about a couple hours ago. Kevin O'Connell got a massive, lucrative extension to sign with the Vikings. Of course, they stated massive and lucrative, but they did not discuss or disclose any details of the contract yet. But I'm pretty sure as soon as they do, I'll definitely, report it to you guys. But that was big. That was big for Kevin O'Connell to definitely come back and be playing for the Minnesota Vikings. Well, I said playing, coaching for the Minnesota Vikings. Because let's be honest, next year would have been a lame duck season. I don't think that would have been healthy for the franchise, and I definitely don't think it would have been healthy for him mentally. This guy and this man has pretty much, galvanized this roster, and he's pretty much got this team winning. He was able to overcome a lot, quarterback deficiency wise a year ago when Kirk Cousins went down with the injury. Had this team competitive. 14-win team this year. Like I said, Kevin O'Connell definitely deserved this contract extension. However, what this contract extension explained to me, though, was though he got his money, that means Sam Darnold is on the way out. I think Sam Darnold definitely played his way out of a contract with those last 2 games, end of the regular season and first game of the playoffs. So O'Connell's definitely going to stay. McCarthy's going to be the guy going into the future. So I definitely think that's going to be dope for the Vikings. And we shall see what, McCarthy has in store and what O'Connell may have in store as far as coaching him up and getting him to play to his highest potential. Going to the Green Bay Packers, which I thought was an interesting one. They have an interview with Casey Rogers, who is the Buccaneers defensive line coach. And he's interviewing with the Packers for the same position, which if you pay attention, it's the little things that count in these situations. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why would he make a lateral move like that? Why would he leave Tampa, where he's been for the past 4 or 5 years, and then go to Green Bay? That's because in Green Bay, he's going to wind up being known as the guy who saved the defensive line of the Green Bay Packers. Make no mistake, I'm going to read off these numbers, and you'll see them listed here. 2022 on the D-line, defensive line, and defense as a whole period, 13th in sacks. 2023 season, defense was ranked, and like I said, that was 22. They were ranked 13th, 23, 7th, and 24, they were ranked 16th. Now, keep in mind, in chronological order, that's 44, 48, and 46 sacks. And that's what the Packers are potentially interviewing and possibly getting on their defensive line. I think Casey Rogers is going to be phenomenal for the Green Bay Packers. He's been with Larry Foote in Tampa for the past couple of years. He was a part of that championship coordinating staff. Got a lot out of Devin White, got a lot out of Levante David, got a lot of those D linemen. Obviously, was responsible for helping getting and unlocking the potential and good play out of Vita Vea. Like I said, this guy, I believe, is somebody who definitely would be great for the Packers. He's great at developing D linemen and pass rushers. I think really the key to this, too, is twofold if you're the Green Bay Packers. He's going to help unlock Luke Van Ness, who I think has definitely been a guy that's been right around the cusp but just hasn't broken through yet. And he guarantees that they'll definitely be grabbing an edge rusher in the NFL draft or free agency, if not both. Because, whether it's a playoff game against Philadelphia or whether it was games throughout the season, if Green Bay has a great edge rusher and they have a great, pass rush, kind of changes the fortunes of their season and a lot of those games that they're in, whether it's Detroit, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's Philly. So interesting to see. I definitely think, too, as well, that this will help make their defense more aggressive and physical. And this is something that if you're Green Bay, you definitely want, because if you can add that that element of extra, smart, calculated physicality, and you're aggressive against the quarterback, it's going to put the Green Bay Packers in a position where next year they'll be competing for the 1 seed in the playoffs. So definitely great to see there. Interesting, and I'll definitely be keeping you guys posted on that. The next one, which I thought was pretty good too, Lions Hank Fraley, former longtime Philadelphia Eagle, had been in the league for about 10 years. He's having his second interview for the Seahawks for their offensive coordinator position, which we know how this works, guys. When you're successful and you don't win, even when you win, you're going to lose coordinators. The Lions are in a situation where they're going to have to lose a lot of guys. I think if Dan Campbell's smart, you're probably going to have to kiss some ass and get some guys to stay, because you're losing a lot. You're possibly be losing a lot of coordinators in one offseason, where you may have to replace a whole staff, and try to get these guys up to speed to what you like to do and what you guys like to do. So Hank Fraley interviewing for the offensive coordinator position. Like I said, I think Hank Fraley definitely can do the job. He's been around Andy Reid. He's been in the Detroit system now for a couple of years. I definitely think he's competent and comparable to a lot of these guys that are getting interviews for this position. But make no mistake, if the Lions lose him, this is another important coordinator that they're going to have to replace. So we'll definitely keep, eyes on that. And I'll definitely keep you guys posted on what's going on there in Detroit and Seattle. This last one, though, I'm definitely going to take my time on this one because I thought this was pretty damn funny. But just speaking on it, I want to get to it. The Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith dynamic. Like I said, this article is via Sports Illustrated, but you know, as you read it in context, you kind of got the gist, and I previously reported on this. You kind of got some summarization that Arthur Smith essentially wanted Justin Fields to be his quarterback. He wanted Justin Fields to be the quarterback. You know, he was pretty much told that they had to run with Russell. They ran with Russell. They had a nice little burst of the offense, and then things got stagnant, and they wound up having to eventually put Justin Fields in. Again, we went over this. Don't want to beat your head in, but what I ultimately want to say is this is very interesting to me. We know Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere. That's been discussed, talked about, stated effusively on many networks. Jerry Dulac, beat writer for the Pittsburgh Steelers, has stated on television that, you know, to his knowledge and his recollection from what he heard from the organization, Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere. So, bam, let's table that, put that to the side. Arthur Smith caught a lot of shit from people like me and other people for his play calling in Atlanta, where he turned Kyle Pitts into a receiving left tackle. Didn't really feel like he did enough great things, and maybe he was limited due to quarterback play. He did have Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke, so he beat that as it may. It wasn't really great quarterback play, but Arthur Smith ultimately helped resurrect the Steelers' offense, especially after what they were dealing with Matt Canada. That being said, what I think is very startling about this is that being that he really didn't run Russell in there and he wanted to go with Justin Fields, how can you justify bringing Russell back, especially after the last 5 games where he wasn't necessarily terrible, but he didn't do anything to really help you, especially when he couldn't throw in the middle of the damn field. So, in my opinion, whoever doesn't come back won the battle. And I personally feel like that should be Russ. Russ shouldn't be back. You ran it for a year. You like what you did. You did get to a playoff. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson in the AFC. You're not. Russell Wilson is not that guy. He couldn't even run off the edge properly without damn near getting obliterated on the sideline. So I definitely think not. But I think that the way they may go, the way the Steelers have been operating as of late, they'll probably let go of Arthur Smith. They'll probably get rid of Arthur Smith and then try to justify it to you, well, we had to get rid of him because, you know, the dynamic, things were stagnant within the offense. To me, personally, when you have a quarterback who doesn't throw in the middle of the field, he doesn't really run the ball effectively as far as helping the running game, that just limits you. That just limits you. It just puts you in precarious situations where you're down, you know, a game like Baltimore where you're down early. You can't run your way out of that. You got to throw. But the problem is when your quarterback doesn't utilize the whole field, how the fuck are you going to win a game? I mean, literally 3 passes in the middle of the field for Russell Wilson and that, you know, losing effort against Baltimore in the wild card round of the playoffs. I just feel like ultimately, outside of a couple moon shots that he may hit here or there, what's the point of bringing this man back? Develop Justin Fields, draft another young guy if you feel you need to, get a veteran in there if you feel you need to. But I don't know if you could really run back this Russ experiment. You know, like I said, he wasn't toxic waste as far as production, but he wasn't great either. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Like I said, it's the head coaching updates and carousel roundup, and I'm going to have more updates coming along as more signings are coming. But I think it was always like, share, and subscribe. Take care, stay warm, guys, and enjoy the rest of your evening.